how much do you think about water? More specifically, how much do you think about where your water comes from? When it comes out clean from the tap, do you stop to consider how it got there? I can't say I do. And like me, you probably only notice your water when it's threatened. When a drought makes your water bill shoot up, when an oil spill destroys a nearby coastline, or when you read about a community losing access to it altogether. But what would change if you thought about where your water comes from? And how would a community change if everyone thought about where their water comes from? These are the thoughts that are running through my head as I'm driving down Interstate 65 from Nashville, Tennessee to Birmingham, Alabama, in the middle of a 5,000-mile road trip across America to find stories of positive change. Because down in Birmingham, Alabama, there is a river that might just help local residents see not just their water, but each other in new ways. And that, my friends, is a great example of tangible hope.
What's special to me about the Cahaba River is its beauty. When I'm there, it feels like I'm not in Alabama. You can say the Cahaba River, as far as biodiversity goes, is America's Amazon. Now, I know that's a big statement, and you gotta have some facts to back it up. Well, the Cahaba River, it has more diverse life per mile than any other river in North America.
If you look at the Columbia River system in the Pacific Northwest, huge, beautiful river system, they only have 33 different fish species. The Colorado River system only has 25.
There's 135 different fish species that have been found in the Cahaba River.
So there are more fish species in the Cahaba River than in the Colorado or the Columbia River combined.
I want to find the 136 fish species.
The Cahaba River and its sister river, the Black Warrior River, have been a lot of different things to Birmingham residents in the past. In its manufacturing heyday, the rivers fed the steel mills. For the first settlers, it sent goods in and out of town. And for the Mississippians, the ancestors to many of the area's native people, it was the site of a thriving community built around huge earthen mounds. But for all the residents of Birmingham, past and present, the rivers have provided one essential thing above all. It's drinking water.
It's our source of potable water for Birmingham. And we draw from that water for about a quarter of the population of this state.
So many people have a view of rivers, of oceans, of garbage trucks, out of sight, out of mind. They don't realize that has to go somewhere. They don't realize that, a cup of diesel fuel, how much damage that will do to a watershed.
And a lot of people do not understand the importance of having clear, clean water. When you go and you take a shower, the water is clear. You fill a bathtub up, the water is clear. But just what happens if one day that stopped and the water came out your faucet, a different color, a different smell, had all these chemicals in it, and there was nobody who seemed like they were trying to help you get your way of life back? Like, it doesn't seem important to a lot of folks, like, yeah, water, whatever. Have that taken away from you, you will not survive.
Let me introduce you to Myra, David, Eric, and Latanya. They'll be our guides to Birmingham and the Cahaba River today. And each one of them, in their own way, is on a mission to get Birminghamians to think differently about the water coming out of their tap.
Here in Alabama, environmental work is an uphill battle, and so we need every person pitching in, for sure.
Cahaba River Keeper was founded in 2009. I left the university as a research scientist and wanted to continue my work. Was aware of the river, and we've looked at it. There's no data, there's not a great deal of information. People would say the river's better, the river's worse, but as a scientist, I'm like, show me the data.
So in Alabama, a place that has long seen natural resources like water as a tool for businesses to use, how does Cahaba River Keeper try to get local residents to help protect its waterways?
The most effective approach to get the public's support and the work that we do is to show them how it impacts them. Our flagship program is our swim guide program. it's impractical that the state can get out and test everywhere people swim. And so we took it upon ourselves to start to sample on the Cahaba River where people swim, fish, and paddle. And so this year we sampled at 18 sites for 18 weeks in a row, and then we published those results. And it really answers kind of the fundamental question that people have when they visit any body of water: is it safe to swim here? When we show people that this is what's happening where you take your kids to swim or to fish, it really resonates. It's a lot different than wanting to encourage people to save a moth or a snail.
In other words, if you can't get people to come to you, you go to the people. The swim guide is a way to translate water quality and habitat health into a form that's useful and meaningful for the community.
The impact that I've seen through the river keepers on all our different waterways has been huge. Just seeing people being aware that when you see something in the river, that's not okay, and you need to be raising a red flag going, hey, this isn't right. That has significantly changed. And I believe the river keepers have done a great job. We work with another organization, the Cahaba River Society. They do a lot more education on the river.
If Cahaba River Keeper connects people through science, LaTanya Scott of Cahaba River Society connects them through personal experience.
I grew up outdoors with my family because my mother and father loved the outdoors. They love fishing, they love camping. So of course, my brother and I took on those traits. I'm an avid angler. I love fishing. I love being in nature. That's just me. So my job and role here at the Cahaba River Society is to take students and teachers out to the river and teach them hands-on environmental science activities, as well as building advocacy and stewardship for the folks that we bring out to the river to have appreciation for it. So in the future, they'll want to take care of it. There are many places and neighborhoods where when it rains, their whole entire neighborhood floods, or there's a river that just happens to take houses down the street. So that can develop fear and boundaries for folks to say, well, I don't want to go outdoors. I don't want to go in nature. When we take students out to the river, I've had young ladies come up to me and say, I've never touched a tree, or this is the first time I've been in the woods. Having that accessibility or just the opportunity to have those students come out to the river and absolutely enjoy themselves is breathtaking.
For much of its history, the city was not a place associated with nature or pastoral beauty. From its founding in 1871, everything about Birmingham was designed to cater to industry. The city's name itself comes from Birmingham, England, and was meant to evoke that city's reputation as the foremost manufacturing powerhouse in the 19th century. But Birmingham, Alabama has struggled with air and water pollution issues that have lasted far longer than the steel boom did, much of it disproportionately affecting low-income neighborhoods and communities of color. But it's also a place that many of my guys were quick to point out is reinventing itself.
We're kind of in the middle of a small renaissance here. Years ago, there's a lot of kind of an exodus from downtown, and now people are starting to move back. Businesses are starting to invest, to build things.
This renaissance that's going on in Birmingham is different than in the past, in my opinion, because of the diversity of the businesses that are taking part in it. So many different restaurateurs, local artists, local craftsmen, local clothing shops. It's this whole group of small businesses that are coming together.
And so you're seeing, tremendous focus on Birmingham that didn't exist, 10 years ago even. It's kind of funny because a lot of that is anchored to, microbreweries and craft brewing.
I'm sorry, did you say beer? Do you mean that we can win hearts and minds with beer? Oh, yes, please.
This is our brew house here. So we moved into this building in 2016. It's actually an old foundry built in 1929, where they used to make cotton gin. I thought it'd be fun to have the stainless in the background. I'm talking about beer. People love the stainless.
Don't let Eric's brewmaster charm fool you. His first job out of college was working for the county's Stormwater Management Authority. So when it comes to water, and especially the Cahaba River, he knows everything about it.
The water coming out of the Cahaba River is very important to Cahaba Brewing Company because water is a main component of beer. Well, if we're focusing on quality of the product we're focusing on the community. What better than taking the name of the river that's providing a major water source for the Birmingham area and brings people together and builds community. And it would just seem to be a perfect, I guess you say, symbiotic relationship between the river that's doing all this and the brewery that wants to do the same thing.
And it's not just breweries that are seeking out the help of environmental groups. David from Cahaba Riverkeeper told me about a pipeline company that reached out to him for advice in 2016 after a series of pipeline leaks released hundreds of thousands of gallons of oil near the most biodiverse section of the Cahaba River.
I was really uneasy the first day I went out to the leak site, and I had on my Riverkeeper shirt. And what I found out is that the workers at Colonial sought me out, and they were fishermen. Their kids grew up swimming there. And so we had a lot of the same values. It's easy to lose track of how much we have in common.
As a riverkeeper, David couldn't imagine working with a pipeline company. But what he found was that he could work with a pipeline's people.
So it's a very unlikely partnership, but I think it shows that when everybody's willing to listen, you can sit down and have really productive conversations. I think through that sort of arrangement, that partnership, we both learned a lot about each other.
When we talk about Birmingham, we can't ignore the legacy that segregation has had on the people living there.
There is a bridge on the river where is a perfect spot for us to present our clean program to students and teachers. And this bridge is the same bridge where the KKK met to plan the 16th Street Baptist Church bombing many years ago.
The city was a flashpoint in the civil rights movement in the 1950s and 1960s, and the push for equality and access continues today in Birmingham, even as it strives to reinvent itself as a regional hub of culture.
If you're a foodie, there's food everywhere. If you want to be active, there's plenty of places to go. There's parks, there's places just to walk and explore. But for inner city students, these opportunities are not being presented to them. My goal is to focus on urban youth, inner city students. I see that the river is a place that they can go and enjoy and engage with because they are going to be our future leaders. In years to come, they are going to be our decision makers to either agree or disagree to put a 4-lane highway over our drinking water reservoir. Another thing I would say is the acceptance part. Now when you have Black birders, Black hikers, Black runners, Black swimmers, Black bikers, Black fishers, we get looks, we get questioned, but I'm still going to continue to build bridges and open doors for youth of color for the outdoors.
In my conversations in Birmingham, I kept finding this balancing act between drawing attention to long-standing problems while also maintaining a solid, optimistic resolve for what their efforts could achieve, and how the Cahaba River could be a metaphor that helps bring the entire community together to make that future happen.
I would think in 20 years, this will be different because I think the young people today will have a different impetus to support clean water, to demand that their rivers are clean. It's going to be a necessity for life.
And one of the things that we really work hard from an education standpoint is not to shield people from the reality of what's going on the river, because they do have a tremendous impact. Their consumer choices make a difference. The people that they elect make a difference.
The power of local people and residents of Birmingham to protect their drinking water is infinite.
There's just so much here, and it's so diverse. Our communities are diverse. Our ecosystems are diverse. So when you really start looking at this diversity, we're biodiverse in our rivers. We're diverse in our communities. We're diverse in what the ecosystem has. We're diverse in the ecology. We're diverse in the terrain. So it's just such a unique place to come to.
Once again, the Cahaba River is the most biodiverse river of North America. It has so many different fish species, turtles, snails, crayfish, etc. But if you take that and you put people into it, The river has all these different beautiful things in it and around it, but it's living in harmony. It works. The river is ever flowing and it's ever moving. And I wish that people would just live in harmony like the river. Just keep flowing, but together in diversity and be a beautiful thing.
Before I left Birmingham to continue my journey down to New Orleans, David took me down to the river to see it up close. Just like with our school groups, he didn't take me to the postcard spots. He took me to a few nearby places to show me where the banks are eroding, or how you could tell if the water was filled with sediment or not. This was a part of America's Amazon that he wanted to bring my attention to because it's the part that often gets overlooked. He said the river's a bit like a blanket, and that each section of the river that becomes uninhabitable or each snail species that disappears is kind of like pulling a thread out of that blanket. Until when you go to wrap yourself up in it, it doesn't exist anymore. And that got me thinking about all of the neighborhoods and communities in Birmingham that get overlooked, and the entire cities and areas of America that get overlooked. But if we all thought of ourselves as critters in the same river, as LaTanya put it, would it be harder to overlook how interconnected we are to each other? Would it be easier for us to quit being like snails that stay inside our own shells and instead take in all of the crazy, beautiful, uncomfortable, frightening, and inspiring people around us? Thanks for watching. And if you want to find out more about any of the community-based organizations featured on Tangible Hope Project, you can learn about them on our website, tangiblehopeproject.org, or in the show notes below. You can also help support the series by subscribing to us on YouTube, following us on social media, telling a friend to check us out, and staying with us, because we're heading down to the Big Easy on our next stop, Tangible Hope Project.
Reach back to where you people come from, and reach back, the only streets we run from, and react to mics and speakers and drums, cause this lifeblood is the city we love. Iron ore to the core of the heart, pumping liquid metal to the rest of the town. Foundation is sound. The forest tells the story of a scarred city, history of the heart of Dixie, not far from gritty. The bondage and strife of the past threaten lives of the masses, but it's hard to burn steel down to ashes. When it takes a beating, you just heat it up and recast it, mold it in a new shape, give it a new face. Not a face of death, but the face of life. Looking to Christ for new direction. Fighting the infection of prejudicial practices. Have a darker skin, they will crack your lid. We struggle for survival. Now we need revival. The hand will be the center of this four-course plan. The seed is an example of the Lord's support, man. We ready to expand, cultivate Birmingham into a musical promised land. Reach back to where you people come from, and reach back, the only streets we run from, and react to mics and speakers and drums, cause this lifeblood is the city we